The first thing that console players do that PC players don't is abusing the operator Goyo. Goyo is a great operator, and if you look at the pick rates between PC and console people actually pick Goyo the second most out of any operator on defense, whereas on PC, he's not even close to there. And console players are absolutely right for thinking that Goyo's an amazing operator. You have an ACOG on a Vector, you have 4 Goyo canisters that last 20 seconds each, which means you're wasting a total of 80 seconds per round of just straight fire. Because you're able to set these down in the prep phase as well, it means even if you die, your teammates can still use this utility, which means most solo queue players, even if they're dead, are still getting value for their team. You also have impact grenades if they're running shields, which we all know are extremely meta right now. So Goyo was a great pick that I think a lot of PC players don't really utilize, and console players are very good at realizing Goyo's potential. Now that was just 1 out of 10 different things that console players do that PC players don't. You loved my last video about how PC players do things that console players don't, so I thought I'd switch around the roles in this video and give you part 2. Now, the second thing that console players do that PC players don't do as much is literally just swinging everything. On PC, it's really advantageous to kind of just hold a pixel peek. So if anybody swings into you, you can easily react and shoot them. It's a lot harder to do this on console though. The reason for this being is because if you miss your first shot on the pixel angle, chances are the person Ferrari peeking you is going to absolutely decimate you on the angle. PC players tend to be a lot better aimers, right? Because they're on a keyboard and mouse. So when they swing you, even if you're holding a pixel angle, a lot of the times they'll kill you anyway. So holding pixels on PC is a lot more valuable if you can do it correctly. However, on console, people don't really do that. They just kind of swing stuff because holding a tight pixel angle and hitting a pinpoint accurate shot is a lot harder to do on a controller. I realized this whenever I was actually playing against console players when crossplay was a thing for the very first time. Because crossplay was enabled a few seasons back, I had a few roller enemies who were queued with PC players, and literally all they were doing was reading Warden SMG-12, Vigil SMG-12, Goyo Vector, Doc ACOG, and they were just swinging everything. There was not a single pixel angle held. And I noticed when I held a pixel angle, I would kill them a lot. So just overly swinging things is something that is really prevalent on console, at least compared to PC when we're more passive and we like to hold a lot more angles. Now that might be more of a bad thing, but something that console players are a lot better at is using the compensator. Now the compensator is an attachment on PC that isn't shown enough love in my opinion. There are a lot of guns like LMGs or Ella's Scorpion or other guns that have side-to-side recoil like the Bearing 9 for example, or even the SMG-11 that people should be using compensator on, especially on PC when the recoil is not that hard, as opposed to something like a flash hider or even a muzzle brake or even a suppressor. I never really considered to use a compensator on the SMG-11 or even on Goyo's Vector, to be fair. I was able to just really control the recoil, but then I saw people on console doing it and I realized I could control the recoil even better if I put on a compensator and literally just pull down. That way there's no side-to-side recoil and there's no up and down recoil because I can just pull down with my mouse super easily. So using compensator is something that console people are really good at compared to PC people who usually just use flash hider on every single weapon. Something else that console players do that PC players just can't do is controller customizations. Being able to customize your controller is a lot cooler than simply having a mouse that you can't really customize and a keyboard that you also can't really customize. Now, believe me, there are some softwares that you can use to customize your stuff. For instance, I have a Logitech mouse, so I have Logitech G-Hub. This is where I can control my DPI, control what certain buttons do, even use a macro if I wanted to, which by the way, you will get banned for now, so do not do that. And then also for my keyboard, I have a software called Wutility because I have a Wuting keyboard, and this allows me to customize a bunch of stuff. If you want to see exactly what I did to customize mine, go check out my settings video after this video, but you get the idea. We can control our stuff and customize it, but really only the software of it. We can't actually customize the physical layout of our mouse or our keyboard. Whereas on controller, you'll have things like control freaks, you can change the grip, you can change the type of controller you're using, you can change the dead zones on your triggers and sticks. There's a lot more customizable things that you can do than there is with a PC keyboard and mouse. Something else that you're able to customize that you should not be doing, which a lot of controller players do, that PC players don't do, is using a Cronus. Now believe me, there are cheats on PC, do not get me wrong, but there is nobody really using a Cronus on PC. Like I said, it's usually more just mouse scripts more than anything to control recoil if people are trying to macro on PC at all. But a Cronus is really prevalent on console. Even though controller recoil is a lot easier to control than PC recoil because of a few updates that have happened over the past few years, recoil is still something people don't want to have to think about when managing their guns. So some people get something called a Cronus, which essentially makes it to where you can control all recoil for any weapons you want by just plugging in this third-party device called a Cronus. Now, this is against TOS. You can get banned. You can face consequences for using a Cronus. They're actually talking about permabanning people very soon that use a Cronus. So do not do this. But it is something that controller players do a lot that PC players do not. Something else that console players are able to do that PC players can't is enabling crossplay. So you as a console player have the ability to either play with PC players or to not play with PC players because you're able to enable and disable crossplay. What you may not know is that on PC, that is not at all the case. On PC, we cannot turn crossplay off. So no matter what we do, we are able to have controller players on our team and controller players on the enemy team. Now, this is pretty bad for us because a lot of the times, like I said, using a keyboard and mouse is a lot easier and it makes your aim a lot better if you can get good with it. Which means a lot of the times when I have controller teammates on a PC, their aim is pretty bad. And the fact that we can't turn this off just makes it to where we're going against a 5-stack of champions who are all on keyboard and mouse, and I have 3 teammates who are roller that are 0.8 KD emeralds. It's just not fair. We should be able to turn this feature off, and luckily, console players can do that, and that's just one more thing that y'all can do that PC players don't. One thing that console players do, though, that PC players don't do as much is refusing to watch Pro League. I think a huge part of the culture of console and controller in general is watching a lot of the Roller Saturday tournaments and Roller Sunday tournaments and things of that nature. The really jinxy pro scene because they're all on controller. So you can kind of feel represented when watching those streams and it's more up to date with what you're going to do in your strats in your ranked games. However, I do think PC Pro League is a completely different beast and every Pro League team on PC that you watch would absolutely stomp any console team that you'd watch. There are a few exceptions, like obviously the M80X team did really well, but when they were on M80X, they were all on PC keyboard and mouse, and they didn't even make Pro League. There are controller players that have gone on to go to Pro League and make it far, like Stompin' and Wizard and things of that nature. But again, they're all on PC, on keyboard and mouse, and on a Pro League team of nothing but keyboard and mouse players on PC. Console Pro League and PC Pro League are just not on the same level in terms of competitiveness and strats that go into making stuff. So I genuinely think that if a lot of console players started to watch Pro League, you'd get a lot better, just like all of these PC players are doing, instead of watching the roller tournaments. But hey, that's just my opinion. Something that console players do a lot better than PC players, though, is banning Capcan. Now, for console, Capcan was actually the #1 most banned defender through the entire season last season, and he has been in the top 5 most banned defenders for a few years now. Now, I do think he doesn't need to be the #1 most banned defender. I think that's ridiculous. If you can't look down and look at a Capcan trap, there's something wrong with you. But I do think that on PC, I die to Capcan traps, and so do my teammates a lot more than we'd like to admit, and banning Capcan isn't something that we should really stray away from as much as we do on PC, and that's something that console players aren't afraid to do on console, which is just banning Capcan and not having to worry about it and being able to do your Ash Rush and sprint into sight without a worry in the world. It's something I wish my PC players did, and it's something that console players do a lot better than us. Something else that console players do a lot better than PC players is ratting. I think ratting and just proning in a random corner is a great strategy against certain teams. If you have a team that's really aggressive, that's just rushing the bomb site or sprinting in the building, and they're not really droning or checking corners, ratting can be a great way to punish those types of teams. Teams that are just 5-man rushing in with a blitz or a Blackbeard, stuff like that. I genuinely think that ratting and sitting in a corner and having trigger discipline and killing their entire team and just slowing down their momentum is something that's really good, and console players are really good at ratting. Now, there's a certain level or skill gap, I should say, between the average controller player or console player and the above average controller player, right? And I think mechanically, if you just can't keep up with the really good controller players and you're more of an average controller player, ratting in a corner and shooting people in the back is probably the best thing you can do if you're not going to win a one-on-one head-on-head gunfight because your mechanics are worse. And I noticed when crossplay was a thing that I couldn't turn off on PC and I was going against controller players, they were ratting a lot and getting a lot of free cheese picks with it. So it's something that console players do a lot better than PC players, just abusing ratting. And now for the 10th and final thing on this list that console players do a lot better than PC players, in my opinion, as somebody who has played both controller and mouse, and that is abusing shotguns. Ever watched a Jinxie 1v1 on Oregon, you know what I'm talking about. Controller players are so good at using shotguns that it got to the point where when I 1v1 Jinxie, I specifically asked that he not use any shotguns on top floor Oregon. It's that bad, especially against PC players when a lot of console players just know that they can't really compete in terms of aim. They'll use shotguns in corners and they'll swing off of audio cues to make it to where they don't need to be good at aiming as long as they one pump you in the chest. Now, with limb damage being reduced, making it to where you actually have to hit the head or the chest, I do think that using shotguns is a bit harder, but I think for console players, y'all do use it a lot more because it's so much easier to not have to worry about your aim and just swing people with a shotgun. I also think movement on console is a lot easier and more fluid, and using a shotgun with more fluid movement is a lot easier to do. So using shotguns is something that I think console people utilize a lot more and they're a lot better at, in my opinion. Now, me myself, I am a PC player, and if you want to check me out live, I stream every single day on Twitch. But if YouTube's more your style, check out this next video, and I'll see you there.